So our company is called lavende Candles of Nature, and I'm Aiden, as Shanti, Ko, Kat, Mimi, and Tomas. So in our presentation today, we're going to talk about first our company definition, then our market analysis, then the iterations of our product, then our financial analysis, and then the visions for the future. So this is our mission statement. So we at lavende strive to give our customers candles that are local, organic, recyclable, and reusable. Our candles are both eco-friendly and user-friendly, offering a desirable option for those living a conscientious and sustainable lifestyle. So that is our mission statement and what we strive to protect. Our goals, so we're trying to be a candle that's really eco-friendly, and we want to promote eco-awareness. And we also want to have a successful marketing campaign so that people really know our brand and what our candles suggest. And we also want a product that customers can really relate to, especially customers who are eco-conscious. And our specific target audience are ecologically friendly adults living in Madison Park. Now it's a little bit specific, but you can compare that to other demographics as well that are similar, and that is our target audience. And now, Mimi will talk about the slogan.
Okay, so our slogan is Candles of Nature, which is short, simple, and informative. And it lets our customers know that our product is a candle and what kind of candle it is. And this is our visual library, in which we put together images of the kind of qualities we want our candle to have, such as like natural and earthy and soothing. And so before we came up with the design concept, we surveyed several people and asked about their lifestyle and what they found most appealing about a candle in order to get an idea as to what people in our market were looking for. And so what we found is that people thought that the light, flame, scent, and mood of the candle was the most appealing aspect. And one said they liked the way the candles can change the look and feel of the room, and another said that the ambiance was the most appealing aspect. And similarly, we asked what they looked for in a candle, and they said price, shape, and size. And they also said that an eco-friendly option, they would like an eco-friendly option. One person said yes, especially if the packaging was eco-friendly too. On the contrary, we asked what the least appealing aspects were, and they said if the candles melt too fast, or too small, or too light, or a fire hazard, smell fake/perfumey, and drip. And so based on our initial feedback, we created a product that took into account as many of these aspects as possible.
So I looked at all of our would-be competitors. So in this graph, here's the price of a small mason jar candle that is scented, and then the website what ranked it in terms of availability, which is like how widespread they are and how many different stores they are. So Yankee Candles was the most popular, and I placed ourselves almost last because we right now don't have a very big market base or like people that buy our candle. So in cost we're right above, a little bit above the average, but that should be fine because we are eco-friendly. And then so here we can see our candle compared to the most popular other candle, which is a Yankee candle. They're both similar because they're both like lavender and stuff. So
can I just ask one clarification on the slide because I don't understand. Availability meaning what, and why are you more available, if I read that right, than like a whole bunch of other candles?
Then circling candles.
Right.
I ranked ourselves.
Which is most available? Which?
So there's an arrow pointing here. So Yankee candles are most, and then the cost goes up.
Got it. And why are you more available than Circle E?
Because it's just a very small company, and
how big are you?
Right now, pretty small.
Okay. Usually on slides, just so you know, usually the up direction and the out direction is usually so.
Yeah. Alright, so I'll turn it over to Katrin for iteration.
Alright, so the evolution of our product and design. We started with the initial design and concept, and then we developed more of a defined image, and then we made some changes based on the feedback that we got, and then finally we went to our final product. so the initial concept. After defining our market, the first thing that we wanted to do was decide what kind of wax we wanted to use. And we were thinking either soy wax or beeswax because those are the greenest options for candles. And then thinking about the shape, we didn't want to make anything like tapers, and from our market feedbacks, we knew that they didn't want anything too small or too wide. And so our next thought was to make a container candle because soy wax is a naturally soft wax and works best as a container candle. And this would also allow for an eco-friendly and reusable casing. Alright, developing image. So once we found out that we wanted to use like a glass jar as a reusable container, we decided that a mason jar would be great because it would allow for something reusable and for a larger candle. And then for the color, we wanted something really earthy, and so we were thinking either like a green, a nice kind of calming orange, or a natural white. And the other thing was we could just keep the natural state of the candle because the wax is an easy color. And for the scent, we wanted to keep that earthy and simple vibe. And so we are thinking vanilla, cinnamon, lavender, or citrus because it's relaxing and natural. And as Mimi said earlier, our market interviews really didn't want anything that smelled fake or perfumey. Alright, changes based on market feedback. The first thing that we did was define the scent as lavender because when we chose our company name and asked our market what they thought about it, lavender was one of the first words they thought of when they heard lavande. And also with our logo, lavender seemed to be the easiest and most simple choice. And so this was made based on the feedback that we got and where we wanted to go with our marketing. And the other thing is we scratched all of our other color choices and chose purple because this seemed to match our branding. And then we chose soy wax as the best option because it was the most eco-friendly option and also easy to remove from the container afterwards. And the mason jar was the idea that we kept because our market seemed to really enjoy that idea. And then our final product. We changed some things based on the feedback that we got from our initial prototype. Like the jar that was used before, nobody really liked the diamond texture. So we changed it to the jar that you see now, which is a little bit bigger and a little bit more plain. And also we filled the jar higher because the kind of half-half proportions that we had before weren't very aesthetically pleasing. So we wanted to change that. And the other thing we did is we made the purple just a little bit lighter because our audience thought that that was a more suiting and pleasing color to make. And so the final design, including the box, which is a triangle shape instead of the typical sleeve on the jar or rectangular box, makes us stand out. And our final design is clean and natural and sophisticated and really reflects what our brand is all about. And next, I'm going to turn it over to Shanti to talk about the experiments.
So throughout our process of making these candles, we had to do a lot of lab experiments to figure out how things like color and scent and burn rate affect our wax and our candles. In this graph on the right, it shows the RGB of the different amount concentrations of purple dye in candles. And RGB is it's a way of describing color, except for when it's lower, it doesn't actually mean the color concentration is less. It has to do, it's actually a method that programmers use. But we also showed when we showed the colors to our market, a lot of them seemed to prefer the lighter ones. So we did go with a lighter color, which was somewhere in between the 0.5 drops of color and the 3 drops of color. This graph here shows the intensity of scent in our candle for, it was the way we looked at scent was we put a certain amount of drops and then we had a group of people come over and rank the candle out of 10 as to how much scent, like how strong they thought the scent was, and that's what you see here. As you can see, the highest amount of ranking we got was around 4, so we realized that we weren't using enough scent at all. So once once we moved on to further prototypes, we added the highest amount of scent.
What's the takeaway from this slide for your potential investors?
Well, it shows them that we go through a fairly scientific and thorough process as to figuring out how we make our candles, which will help us stay consistent. These two graphs are from a lab we did concerning the burn rate and the flame height of candles, which was very important because we didn't want the flame height to be too small so that it would be visually attractive, but we also didn't want the burn rate to be too high because then our candle would burn out very fast and the customers would be happy. What we found is that the soy wax actually burns very slowly no matter what sort of size of wick you use or whether it's in a jar and not in a jar. So ultimately that actually was not a problem for us whatsoever. And with flame height, we found that the candle in the jar, having candle in the jar didn't actually reduce the flame height, which was something we were worried about because we thought it might have a reduced access to oxygen, but this also did not perform for us as we thought in this lab.
Alright. At the end of the day, if you're going to put money into a company, it's got to be a good investment. Lavende Candle Company we make our candles for $6.63 and sell our candles for $9.95. Assuming we sell only 70% of all candles we produce, we're still going to make $1,520 in profit monthly. That's $18,240 annually. We sell our candles below what our market research said would be a reasonable price to maximize the volume of units sold.
Can I ask you a question on the last slide? Yeah. So how did you pick a $9.95 price point, and how do you know you can produce however many number of candles you need to? I'm not sure how many that is to derive that amount.
So we picked $9.95 because our starting thought was $12.50 something, but the idea was there aren't a lot of people who are going to pay $12 for a candle and then keep buying it and keep buying it and keep buying it. And just below $9.95 or just below $10 plays to the mental psyche of the consumer by pricing it below. They associate the $9 with $9 more than they associate with $10. So that's the whole
Did
thing.
you look at competitive prices? So
Yeah. And we got the numbers by that'll be another slide. Okay.
The volume question you're going to address here.
Yeah, or the next one actually. As stated previously, it only costs us $6.63 to produce a candle, and we sell them for $9.85, which brings our total production costs are $3,824. That's found by ideally we would have a crew of 6 production employees working 9 to 5 for 30 days. So that's all monthly. Paying them minimum wage, calculating all the costs of each element that goes into the candle. That's how we came up with that. Then the monthly income is with that buffer of only selling 70% of our candles.
Does that include if you've got 6 people, or where are they working?
We didn't calculate, and that isn't calculated. The environment isn't calculated.
So no rent or anything.
Yeah, I think so. That's good. Next slide. All right. Our plan was to ask for $35,000 in investment capital, which seems like a big number. Producing nearly 5,000 candles a month, bringing in $33,000, and still having 30% of the candles left on the shelves somewhere. The unfortunate reality is that you're not going to sell every product you make, but it's still out there, it's still there, and it's going to be sold at one point. It might not be in that month. So only making $1,500 a month, it would take us 27 months to pay off all of our. It would take us 27 months to pay off all of our initial capital. But after we did that, we would own the means of production and be able to reduce production costs and increase net income by lowering production costs. And Ian's going to finish it up.
So just as an overview of what we've talked about already, our candles are ecologically friendly. The target audience is ecologically friendly adults living in upscale neighborhoods such as Madison Park. They're lavender scented. The production cost is $6.63. The selling cost per unit is $9.95. And eventually we would expand some goals for the future. So first we'd start off increased production of candles. Eventually we could perhaps make an online web store for more efficient selling. We could add additional scents of candles. And eventually we could make our own small retail stores called lavende and possibly stock other home products as well with the same lavende theme.
Aiden, can I ask you, how are you planning on selling it initially?
Initially, we'd sell it to already running retail stores. Yes.
And do you think you'd get the full $9.95 that the consumer's getting, or would the store get?
Probably not the full $9.95, but we haven't completely factored in that yet. So, and that's our presentation. So.
So before questions come out, I just wanted to say a couple things about the group. I think, in general, you guys did a great job. I know at some, maybe in the beginning there was a little bit of, took a little while to try to figure out what you want to do and get agreement within your group, but I think you guys came to a nice consensus, and then going forward from that, you did a really good job. Some of you focusing more on the packaging, some of you focusing more on the testing, but still doing a really good job communicating within those departments of who's doing what and why you're doing the things you're doing. So I think that was great. I'd like to let Megan get some input, and then we'll open it up to questions from everyone else.
I really appreciate the effort that you put into the packaging. It's beautiful. I have a question, given that your name is lavende, which you pronounce very nicely, by the way. What are your plans for extending your products as far as different scents?
So we thought that, so this one, since lavender has, the logo has like a lavender sprig, so maybe we thought for other scents we could use different images to fit with that, to still keep lavende as our,
Yeah, we could use some of the other scents that we did use for our final project, but we're thinking about like cinnamon and vanilla and things like that our market seemed to enjoy, but we decided not to use.
Or how about combination scents that are lavender plus
Yeah, we could definitely do ourselves
lavender plus
expanding that.
lemon? It seems like you're really cornering in on the lavender market there.
What the? You guys keep going. Keep going. Go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, because I know my group had some trouble kind of finding market feedback, who did you go to for the feedback? Well, some of us knew people from Madison Park. We also did interview family, friends, and adults that didn't necessarily live in Madison Park, because we thought that while it is a different location, that sort of reflected the same demographic that we.
So one of the first thing I noticed with your actual product was that it is really cool looking. It's a mason jar. However, I know in my house, and probably in a lot of more eco-friendly houses, people don't actually own large lighters to get to the bottom of it.
yeah.
So are people supposed to keep it burning until it dies? Or?
No, well, I mean,
there's some matches that you can use, like just wooden matches that fit in there also.
The jar is big enough that you could probably fit your hand if you needed to.
Okay.
Oh, yes, of course.
Abby?
You can also
So
do the
does
box.
the both mean lavender, or what does it mean?
It means lavender in French.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I got a few things. One, did you guys at all test the heat resistance of mason jars? Can you burn a candle in there? Will it break? Will it shatter? Does it?
Well, it's in some of our trials when we did a trial for burn rate using a candle in a mason jar, and we had no problems with that, and it burned for a good 15 minutes.
Did you try like just tipping it over outside or anything when it's a little warmer, a little more fragile, just to see if it would? Just curious.
The only thing we saw with that was blackening of the glass, but there was no cracking or compromising of structural integrity.
Okay. All right.
Also, a lot of the other big companies also use mason jars. So if they have it, it's probably safer to use.
Okay. Just plain straight mason jars would they use. Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay. And then the next question: where's your packaging? That big box.
It's right there.
Okay.
It's going on.
That's big. Right, like that. If you're a retailer, that takes up a lot of space.
We made an error in the measurements of this particular box. It is like about 2 inches too tall, so once we start actually producing it, would be about 2 inches shorter maybe. But it does still represent what our box will look like.
I mean, it looks great. It looks like there's a lot of good information. It's appealing. I do just, one thing that I know that's something that retailers are looking at. They want to get as much stuff on the shelves as they can, because they're paying for space too. You don't want to fill up too much.
There was an error in some measurements, so if we had more time, we would definitely like to do another revision of our packaging.
And then one last thing, I might come back to more later. You guys did all your calculations based on 70% sales, which is good because I don't think anyone else did that. That was a good thing for you guys to look at. The only question I have is, if you only, per your calculations, if you sell 70% each month, and you've got 30% left over from each month, and that's a lot of inventory that's sitting around not doing anything. You might have thought about doing, like just keeping 30% of your inventory around and just reducing production costs, which is going to make things easier. Did you guys do a maximum, because you said you at 70% you made $1,500 or so a month. After paying everybody and so forth, what was your maximum revenue had you sold all units? Did you guys look into that?
No, I mean, at the end we knew that was an unreasonable goal. That especially with a starting company, that selling every single unit we produce would be, especially if we were producing that volume, would be unreasonable.
But as an investor, if I'm paying for you to produce that stuff, I expect that you're going to find a way to sell it.
Yeah, well, we had no doubt. We had no doubt that it would get sold eventually. Just
Yeah.
in that month that it's produced is where we had questions.
So did you calculate how much money you would get had they all been? It doesn't matter when they're sold.
No.
Okay, that would have been pretty helpful now, and it would have made me more excited as an investor.
I just have a question about candle sales. I'm personally not a huge candle shopper. I'm wondering, since the advent of the light bulb, on what occasion would one buy a candle?
Romantic dinner.
Bathrooms. Oftentimes people use them for decoration, which is one of the reasons we're trying to make our car started quickly. So obviously it's not to physically give light to a room. I just think that the use of candles for that and speaking arcade candles for that, it's more just become like decoration.
Yeah.
And lavender is a soothing and calming scent, so when I like it,
It would be like a
relax.
bathroom or something.
Yeah.
So I'll maybe pick up on the last one. I have just some questions and feedback. One is, I like overall how you guys did it, in that you had a theme and you stuck with it and you covered all the topics, and you sort of admitted where you maybe could do more work. That was all really good. In terms of differentiation, there are a lot of candles out there, and you have to sell against everybody else, right, and all those other companies. So the question there is what's unique about this that's going to make people want to buy it? That's the first one.
Well, first of all, what we did do with our price is that we did lower it a little bit, like Co said.
But how does $9.95 compare to all the other prices of candles out there? You think you could buy candles that are scented and for under $9.95?
I think the fact that it's natural definitely creates a special appeal because it's soy wax versus paraffin wax, which doesn't have chemicals in it.
Yeah. Are there soy wax candles out there?
Yes.
So how is yours?
If I could follow up on that, how would you market soy wax as, let's pretend I'm totally uneducated about waxes and soy. I just think of soy as an additive that's grown in giant farms across the Midwest, massive problems with farming and stuff like that. So how would you educate me in terms of soy actually being used for farming? Or you could approach it from 2 points. You could approach it as if I know nothing about soy, what would you say? And then you could approach it as if I'm critical of the the way that soy is thrown into everything in our country?
Well, compared to other waxes such as paraffin, soy wax is biodegradable and renewable, and paraffin is consists of petroleum, which isn't a biodegradable or renewable resource, and it also has limited supply, whereas soy wax doesn't. And soy wax is non-toxic. It's also easy to remove from surfaces, and it helps farmers grow soybeans.
We also buy our wax from local retailers.
And as far as educating the consumer, I think in a second run of the prototype, we could definitely have a segment on there of what soy wax does, the benefits, and why it's better than our competitors.
So just to, Gabe, did you want to keep
No, I'll
going?
cut you off, I was gonna
No, keep
get you
going.
back in. No.
So just to keep going on this point, because I think at the end of the day, the most important thing is how are you different and better from a consumer standpoint, and how have you communicated that? And so one observation is you guys made a nice candle. That would be something probably good to hand out right away when you get started. Just a suggestion. And then secondly, even if you guys, it sounds like you have some answers maybe for why it's better, that's really important to articulate in the presentation. It's probably one of the most important things. I see a couple people saying those all the time.
I just wanted to say that I find the design of the box and the candle really aesthetically pleasing, and it's something, it looks like it costs a lot more than $9.95, and it's something that I would be really pleased to receive as a gift and also would give as a gift. It just looks a lot nicer than what you're charging. So good job on that. And I like the triangle, it's kind of different, and it would make me pick that up.
2 questions. Did you look at cost differences between possibly regular soy and non-GMO soy?
I don't think we did. I think that would be something we could add into the future. This goals we have.
Also, did I see any projection or accounting of cost of packaging in your
So labor costs, tools is not word, but things we use to actually make the candle, those are all calculated into the production costs.
the jar and box packaging as well?
And the box packaging. Well,
And box
labels,
printing.
labels.
On a monthly basis, what were your variable costs as opposed to your fixed costs?
So in this presentation, we didn't include fixed costs because we were focusing on a prediction of the future, where fixed costs would eventually be paid off, but those was monthly cost once things were paid off. Things like space and like utilities were included.
What was the initial loan amount that you guys would be paying back for 27 months?
$35,000.
What was, so you put a nice little description on the side. What was your purpose in that? I'm seeing if you, what were you trying to get across here by writing this? And then I'll ask a couple questions.
It's just something that would tell you what our company is all about, and kind of like a mission statement or story of why our company is important, and to tell you a little bit about it.
It's kind of like, we wanted to appeal to the customer more because we're not telling them a story about us. We kind of give us a more memorable persona, I guess. We do a little bit more. Instead of just a candle.
So one, the first sentence is, our candles offer an eco-friendly solution to ordinary drab candles. So, that's kind of starting off with like a negative statement, right? You agree?
Well, it's putting us on a different level than our competitors.
Right, but you're saying that candles can be drab or can be boring or whatever, right? So all I'm saying is, if that's the direction you're gonna go, because sometimes that's great like marketing, great advertising to just like, you're gonna kind of be negative Nancy and go through it and people kind of find it humorous, or they might buy along with it or think that, oh, these guys are kind of witty or whatever. So if that's the direction you're gonna go, you gotta keep with it, or maybe you think about dropping that part out. And then the last thing, you said that the biodegradable ability of soy wax leads to reduced landfills. You expect to be able to burn these candles, right? So why does it matter if the soy wax is biodegradable? Because it's what's happened to the wax?
Well, other waxes such as paraffin, they contain toxic carcinogenics, and they also the smoke and exhaust it produces air pollution and black soot. But soy wax doesn't, it burns cleanly compared to other waxes, so.
So what are some of those, do you guys look into that? Because I mean, I'm a chemist. I know what happens when things combust. It's supposed to produce carbon dioxide and water, right? Like, what are some of those other things that are going into the atmosphere? What is polluting, and why is it better with soy wax versus paraffin wax?
Well, we didn't specifically do a lot of research into paraffin wax because of what the company said that we wanted to do something like soy wax that was more renewable and stuff. And we did, I believe that there are certain chemicals that paraffin wax does involve, we don't know if they are exactly, that have been like associated with cancer, just like, you know what I mean? Like, we don't know specifically what those chemicals are.
I mean, I've always wondered a little bit myself. You know, you burn a candle, like, where is it all going? It's not just carbon dioxide, I know that. I just thought maybe you guys have looked into it. Okay.
I think you would have to get really educated on that.
Right.
Because, really educated.
Yeah, that's something we could definitely do more of in the future.
So on your ingredients box, it says purple colors. As someone, if I was someone who's doing something all natural, I don't really know if I want purple colorings in my candle. What is purple coloring?
We got all of our materials from a local store called Zena, and they sold like candle making supplies. And so we use like a purple liquid dye.
You know what it's made out of though?
What?
You know what it's made out of?
No, we don't. It doesn't specify on the
If I were buying a candle and I want to be eco-friendly, I want to
Yes.
know what dye.
Yeah, so in for future revisions, we might change what kind of dye we use to fit with our like natural eco-friendly image.
I like the fact that you guys evolved what you were thinking, and I had a few sort of smaller points of feedback. One is on slides, try not to read them, and you probably almost want to minimize text on slides. It's really hard, like, and maybe it's true, I don't know enough about packaging, maybe knows more about packaging than I do, but there's a lot of text here. You want stuff that's easy to read and figure out, and you know, we're probably not as smart as you guys are, so like if you have a lot of text on the slide, it's hard to get the key message. So just like a couple key messages on the slide is really important. And in that light, the one with all the graphs and stuff, you could have probably used some like red circles or arrow or show what you really wanted to show. I don't know what the key point was there, but if it's like we can be consistent, show why that's the case or something like that. And then on Madison Park, there's nothing wrong with saying that's like a prototypical customer, and I think you said it verbally, but it actually said like people in Madison Park on the slide, and maybe you should have said on the slide what you were saying verbally, which is this is an example of our target market.
This is a science question. How do you account for the fact that the flame was higher and it burned faster inside the jar than outside? To me, that's very counterintuitive.
Well, when we were originally doing those trials, we weren't aware of the fact that it changed the size of the candle per se. Those kinds of things. But the candle in the jar was significantly wider than the candle that wasn't in the jar because the jar was fairly wide. So we have a theory that that might have been what affected it, but we honestly don't know besides that.
Why would a wider candle burn faster?
Because the flame is access to oxygen. That's hypothesis.
How would you test that?
So you can't smoke.
Two candles?
Yeah.
Two candles?
Okay, like variations like it.
What are you supposed to do with the jar once you burn the candle?
Well, soy wax is, well, yes, it's like, well, you can also wash soy wax, so you can just wash the soy wax out and use it, for example, in jam or.
So it's safe, it would be safe to put your food in after this.
Yes.
Could use it for working.
Yeah.
So after washing it out, did you guys test if like the scent still remained? Because if like you're putting food in there and there's still like lavender scent in that, that, like, I don't know, but putting extra scent in with regular foods doesn't seem to mix great? Like, did you guys test that at all?
We didn't specifically test that, but the scent from our candle is definitely not like overly overpowering because I like to smell it. So once you wash out all the wax thoroughly, it would seem like it would really be a problem.
I have a question for you guys. I'm curious. So the name lavende, it's well, it's creative and it's a little bit different. You said that once you named it lavende, and then you asked your market, and they said that it reminded them of lavender, and so then you scented the candle lavender. But if you weren't originally thinking of scenting it lavender, why did you call it lavende?
We actually were considering lavender, but that wasn't fully like solidified who we were. But we were originally also thinking about different variations of names. The group just sort of democratically decided that we liked that name, and then everything sort of fit into place.
Just one observation on that. Typically, I've seen start with the product and be intense on what the product is, and then let your brand come from the product. Is oftentimes a more natural way to do it. Get passionate about delighting your customer, exciting them, and then think about how you talk about the product. I think would be a different way to think about that in my experience.
When you were testing the scent, did your market test the scent, or did you guys test the scent?
We tested the scent.
And when you were testing it, did you test it on when it was on the scent when it was burning, or the scent when it was just?
When it was burning.
Okay. Thank you.
This is like a question / comment, I guess. Kind of mix of both. You said the mason jars are reusable. I don't know if this would be feasibly possible, but did you look into maybe like setting up a place where people could bring back the mason jars and you could use them again to make new candles?
We never actually thought of that. That's a very good idea. I suppose especially once we get our own retail stores and some point in the future, like was mentioned, that would definitely be a viable way to keep. It would be a very good way to keep customers that like to keep established customers.
In the future, when we expand, yeah, it'd be a really easy way to do that because when they bring back ours, we could offer like a discount on the next one.
Okay, we have time for one last question.
What would you guys do differently if you had to do it again? What did you learn?
Well, we would take a lot more time because we were definitely very crunched, and a lot of the time that led to less faster decision making than we would like. I mean, it did turn out well in the end, but I think if we had taken a slower process, we might have established a few things better. Like we might have gotten more data, for example, on the burn rate and stuff like that. But we did take away a lot of stuff about like budgeting, I guess, and just in general marketing and how you're supposed to do that sort of thing.